Previously on Coffee with Kenobi.
And you mentioned the porg. I believe, according to Roku Depot last week, we set the record for the most mentions of the word porg on a podcast. But it had happened, but it's because Steele Saunders was on, I think. And
that's porgorific.
We'll go for round 2 this evening.
We'll start the countdown again. Let me hit the meter.
This is Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Hello and welcome to show number 81 of Coffee with Kenobi, your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I'm your host, Dan Z, enjoying a delicious cup of coffee in my blue Disney Cruise Line Star Wars mug from 2016's cruises. I want to be sure to thank each and every one of our new members of our CWK family for joining us, as well as welcome back each one of you who join me for a cup of coffee each and every week. On today's show, we have plenty of Star Wars discussion and analysis, including updates on the Star Wars canon with Jason Brame, CWK newsman Tom Gross bringing us the latest in Star Wars news, and in the coffee chat, we're going to look at the question, what has happened to Rogue One conversation? The movie is only 8 months old and it seems to have slipped from our Star Wars consciousness. We will look at some potential reasons why that has taken place. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee is the daily content manager of Jedi News, program director of the Jedi News Network, and he's also the co-host of Radio 1138 and Take Cover, Mr. Mark Newbold.
Hello.
Hello, Mark. Thank you for coming on again to have a cup of coffee with us.
Oh, I love coffee. In fact, for me right now, it's about 3 a.m., so coffee would be very welcome, actually.
Yeah, we ordered you a double, so I think that should help quite a bit.
That'll do it.
Excellent. Well, also joining us today on the show is the host of the Cantina Cast and all-around nice guy, Mike Rondeau.
I wouldn't go that far saying I'm nice, but it is good to be back on the Coffee with Kenobi. It's been quite a while. I'm looking forward to this, and of course, I haven't talked to Mark in 1,000 years, so this will be fun.
Yeah. Well,
although I don't have as many titles as Mark. I'm a little, I got to work on my titles.
Well,
I'm just greedy.
I have faith in you. So here's the thing, guys. As we're kind of perusing the web this week, of course, there are various articles about The Last Jedi because that's what everybody's talking about, and rightfully so. But there was an article on Digital Spy that I want to draw both your attention to. And the title is, Mark Hamill and Rian Johnson tell fans to avoid all The Last Jedi marketing material until December. I'm going to read a couple little things and then see what you two think about this. Because I think it's fair to say that the three of us are on various ends of the spoiler spectrum. So we'll see. All right, here we go. Justin Harp is the author, and he writes, Star Wars The Last Jedi's director Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill are giving you full permission to completely avoid any and all marketing for the movie, from interviews to trailers. The rush of interviews, new footage, and photos in recent weeks has some Star Wars fans understandably worried that The Last Jedi's surprises are being spoiled, especially since the cinema release is still 4 months away. Now here's Rian Johnson's tweet. More stuff is coming, that's nature of the beast, but I fully endorse avoiding everything you can from now till December. And then Mark Hamill jumps on this and says, I fully endorse this Rian Johnson endorsement, and this is in all caps, avoid everything you can from now till December. And then he has a hashtag words of wisdom, another hashtag well worth waiting for episode 8. So guys, what are your thoughts on that? Mark, let's start with you, because I think maybe you're more in the middle between Mike and I on this, perhaps? Not 100%,
yeah.
But I want to see what you think.
Yeah. It's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I know a lot of people. I know on Jedi News, I mean, we have a really broad mixture of people who completely and sort of almost, vehemently avoid, like Justin, who tries to steer clear of everything he possibly can. And then you get to Matt, who's quite a bit the same. He doesn't want to see trailers and quite happy to avoid. Up to James, who wants to see everything, and catch as many bits as he can, because doing what we do, it's handy to know And it's also handy to know, so you also know what to avoid, because you don't want to spoil things for people who are really trying to steer clear of it. So I get the attitude, I get the logic train of trying to steer clear. But by the same token, I'm pretty sure Hasbro and all the licensees won't be best pleased that the director's saying steer clear of all the merchandising, because obviously there's a lot of toys that need to be sold and so on. So it's a bit of a strange. It's probably not completely on message as far as the bigger picture is concerned, to be telling people don't look at the merchandise until the film comes out, because obviously they need to sell a lot of it. So I mean, for me, it's, you know, well, we're Star Wars fans, and we like to hypothesize and chew these ideas over, and whilst the trailers and the merchandise isn't giving huge story chunks away, it's certainly given us a look at, you know, new costumes, new characters whose context we don't quite know yet. And of course, there's sites out there that deep dive into all these rumors and such. And, you know, I'm sure people can figure things out. And the nearer we get, more gets leaked. It's just the nature of the world these days. But yeah, it's a tricky one. I'm just curious as to when the news comes out. And do you remember Aliens from 1986?
Yes.
The James Cameron. So you go, just think Aliens, but then think Porg. You know, as the alien queen. just think Porg Queen. I'll say nothing else. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I think that's where they're going with this film.
Well, we gotta go. We gotta break our original Porg record that Roku Depot has been keeping track of. I think the new records from Star Wars Report, I think they're at 50. So we'll try to see what we can do organically, of course.
This can be done.
It can be done. Absolutely. All right.
Oh, I can't stand the porgs. Oh my God. I don't get the fascination. But anyway.
Yeah. Tell me, what do you think about this whole avoiding marketing for The Last Jedi? I guess I should say before you jump in that these are just tweets. It's not like they're making official statements, but
correct. Yeah.
You know how the world works.
Yeah, they're not telling you what to do. I mean, that's not what they're doing. But I sympathize, especially with Dan. I don't know how you guys do the whole avoid the spoiler thing, especially because of what we do. So I commend you for doing what you do, Dan. I fall inside of, well, I did like spoilers going up to The Force Awakens, and it was kind of like a drug for me, and it was getting out of hand. I kept bugging Jason and everything. But as we got further on into like The Last Jedi stuff, we took the more of like an approach of, or even you go back to Rogue One when stuff was coming out. We went off of what was published by official stuff or on Entertainment Weekly or something like that, and then we would kind of speculate on it. We like to speculate, as you know, Dan. We kind of try to theorize and do all that stuff. We think it's fun. It's like when we were kids and we had our action figures in the backyard and we were just trying to play out scenes that we didn't see on TV and stuff. So that's kind of where I fall on. As far as the spoilers, if you like spoilers, go for it. I don't blame you guys, because you kind of, it's that whole thing of wanting to know. I guess that's the thing. I need to know this, and I need to know it before my friends know it or something like that. I really don't know why, but I just, with the day and age of the internet and everything, I don't know how you guys can even avoid it at all. I mean, that baffles me. I just guess everything gets leaked. Like, you can't, I don't know. I feel like everything you can't be surprised these days for some reason. But I get what they're saying with Mark and Ryan, and I get that. You want to be surprised, then, you know, hey, more power to you. But I just don't know how you do it these days.
It's challenging. I mean, there are only certain places that I go for my daily Star Wars fix. I'm very selective. Jedi News, I think, does a great job, because if there is something, you guys don't typically reveal it in the headline, and you don't show the image, and you allow us the choice of clicking to find out more or just kind of scrolling to the next story. So, again, I appreciate you guys doing that, Mark.
We try to. We're very organized. We try and be good about these things.
Oh, God, this is going to be a theme throughout.
It is. I can't top that, at least right now. It's come back to me in a few minutes. Okay, so my stance on this is definitely more of a, look, I don't like spoilers. I think that's been pretty clear since the show started over 4 years ago. And I respect and appreciate, and I really enjoy what you guys do in the Cantina Cast with how you theorize, and I think that is creative, and I think it's fun. I think it's a nice critical thinking, and I also value and appreciate Mark's attitude as well, because it is a challenge. We're all in this little Star Wars podcasting media thing, and We want to make sure that we keep our audiences and family members abreast of what's going on and entertained, but it is definitely a challenge. And the thing that kind of struck it for me was the Entertainment Weekly stuff that came out last week, at least at the time of this recording. And I understand that there's some sort of a debate on where the line is between something that's a spoiler and something that is just news and information. I guess to me, a spoiler is individualized. If someone doesn't want to know something, then for them that's a spoiler. Now, for the general public, I think it's fair to say that a spoiler is something that is not officially released by Lucasfilm. I think that's kind. What do you two think about that?
Yeah, that seems like a fair description, doesn't it? I think. If Lucasfilm and Disney are happy to release it and the director's blessing is given, because he's the storyteller, really, I guess. Right. That seems fair, But and I think fans would look at it that way. If Lucasfilm say we're happy to release this, that they presume or assume that they would have sat and gone through the story to a degree that they can say, well, we can treat fans to seeing pictures of, I don't know, Rose, let's say, but we're not going to go into crazy detail about a backstory and what she does in the film. But let's tease people and roll that character out. But if that leaked and all of a sudden you find out what the character is and what she does and what the consequences of her actions are on the plot of the movie, then that's obviously a spoiler. So that's probably a good way of describing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But the only thing is, Mark Hamill said something pretty, I want to almost say earth-shattering for The Last Jedi.
Don't tell me.
Mark, I'm not going to say anything. Don't worry. But it just, I get, like, if you, Dan, like, you're like, all right, it's kind of official. So maybe not you might not do it, but someone that's kind of like in your position where I don't want to know spoilers, but if it's an official thing, I'm going to take a peek. And then this is dropped in your lap. And you're like, what the heck? This was really kind of probably not should have been said or something. And then it was said, and then that's why the tweets, I think, happened and stuff like that. But sure. Again, it's a very fine line you guys walk, and I don't know how you do it. And to credit to Jedi News for doing that. And even Jason does this over at MakingStarWars.net. He doesn't post the pictures. He puts just the logo of the network, and then he says, don't share this, don't look at it. So I give you guys credit. In the past, when we had a website, I kind of just went with it and didn't realize I wasn't that smart to think about, oh, wait a minute, I should probably put something here to do that. So credit to you guys for doing that, at least.
Oh, cheers, man. Thank you.
Cool.
The thing for me about the Entertainment Weekly articles is I read the first day about the discussion, the conversation about why Luke is there and sort of what Rey is going to run into, and it gives you some hints to Luke Skywalker's internal conflict at the start of The Last Jedi. And I read it, and I thought, this is great. I wish I didn't read it. Now, it's pretty obvious that was going to happen. You could tell by the end of The Force Awakens, and we talked about this on show number 80. But to me, Corey and I, and yes, Corey is still out there. Corey and I still chat all the time. We were talking about it, and we both said, you know what? I think I'm done. So I have the Entertainment Weekly. I have the cover with Luke Skywalker on it. It's a beautiful cover, frameable cover, but I haven't opened it. And I can honestly tell you that I'm not going to crack it open until I've seen the movie for the first time. And that might be a bit extreme, but I'm okay with that. That's just my personal choice. Whatever anyone's personal choice is, and the three of us have said this many, many times, whatever you as a fan decide, that's okay for you. That is more than okay. That is your choice, your right, and that is how you embrace Star Wars, and we love that. But for me personally, I think I'm going to follow their advice, and I'm just going to, even like the pictures, I'm going to try to avoid them. Now, Force Friday 2, I'm going to be out in full force, trying to get my porg on, but I'm going to
I thought you weren't going to say a porg. Man.
But, and even that, I remember seeing the Kylo Ren.
I can't escape.
Well, I remember seeing the Kylo Ren shuttle on the original Force Friday and thinking, wow, that is beautiful. I'm going to have to get one of those. Gee, I kind of wish I waited till I saw it on the big screen. And that, to me, is the big thing. Like, the reveals for me, there's nothing like seeing something on a gigantic screen for the first time and just sort of soaking that in. And you know how it is when the three of us see these movies for the very first time. It just sort of hits you, and your mind goes in 1,000 places because you're thinking as a fan, you're thinking as a podcaster, you're thinking just as a witness of popular culture in general. So It's a very interesting thing. I'd really be curious to see what other people think about this as well. So,
I'll go next. I'll get it. I have thought about that. I think it's about context. I think a lot of it's about context, like you say. You know, when you see it in the film for the first time in an environment, a vehicle, you make that Kylo Ren shuttle example. That's brilliant because, you know, the opening scenes over Tuanul Village on Jakku, when that thing comes swooping in and lands, and you see it from a distance, and it's so tall and huge, like a skyscraper. You know, you couldn't imagine that, but because we're you guys at the Cantina Cast, you hypothesize on a lot of stuff, and I find that that's a lot of fun because that's what Star Wars fans have always done since right back in the day. Is take the elements of news that they know and try and work up the what if, maybe, how about, could it be type scenario, which is what Star Wars fans do better than most fans or fandoms. So I think it's a lot of it's about context. So, but it's still cool seeing the toys on Force Friday, but you don't quite know where they fit in. So
now, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. When you were waiting in line for the Force Awakens, did someone spoil it for you? Because my other question is, how do you avoid, because people know what you do. Like my family members, my people at work know what I do, and they know more now. Like they can't believe what I do now because they say, oh wow, you actually do something pretty cool. But they come up and randomly just ask me Star Wars questions or say, oh, I heard this or I saw this on TV. And that might spoil it. How do you handle that situation? Because for me, me, I'm like, all right, yeah, I know about that. It's not a big deal to me. But for someone like you, how do you deal with it?
Well, I pretty much anyone in my personal life here in Central Illinois that knows me, they know two things about me as far as Star Wars goes. They know how much I love it, and they know that I do not like spoilers. And I mentioned this before, but I don't even want to know where my wife goes shopping for Christmas. Like, I don't want to know anything. I just like the anticipation, and I like experiencing the moment with absolutely no idea what's going on. I've always been like that since I was a little porg. So this is something that it's going to be hard to say.
It's like a knife every time you say it. It's like a knife in the heart.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I whenever, like, when my students say, "Oh, I heard this and that," and I will literally put my hand up and say, "Don't tell me." And I put the teacher.
You give them detention?
No, I don't need to. I just give them that teacher look, and they know not to say anything. and it's always worked because I just don't want to know. So on Twitter, I mute anybody that I think is going to spoil something. I only look at specific sites that I think will keep it safe, and then I try to distract myself with other stuff. And it is tricky running the show, but it all seems to work out. And I think you two are wonderful to have this discussion about, because I think we all bring a very unique take on it, and they're all right. They're all good in their own way. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk Star Wars canon with Jason Brame. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
You're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Coffee with Kenobi is sponsored by Penguin Random House Audio. Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From brand new audiobooks such as Thrawn and Empire's End Aftermath to our blockbuster movie tie-in editions, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com/Star Wars for sample clips and to start listening now. Coffee with Kenobi is also sponsored by the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for. And I want to give a special shout out to our Patreon and CWK family members, and I'm talking about our friends Tyler Wiggins, Jason Hall, Dennis Keithley, Angela Souse, Aaron Harris, Jim Capron, Connie Shee, Mediocre Jedi, Christo Hading, Terry Lee, BJ Smith, Nick Deco, Adam Leonard, Mark Suter, Mike Audette, Eric Struthers, Jared Cantor, and Swara Sala. Patreon is a way for you to contribute to our Coffee with Kenobi podcast and website, and helps recoup things like our show expenses, the RSS feed that we have to distribute our podcast to all the different podcasting platforms, webpage, the microphone upkeep, cables, the travel, and all that goes into that, including airlines, hotels, food, transportation. It's all a part of what brings Coffee with Kenobi to you each and every week. And you have a number of incentives when you are a Patreon contributor. And it starts from, you could donate anywhere from $1 to anywhere that you think you would like to contribute. And there are different incentives for you, as I mentioned. For $5, you get recognition at the start of each show, like you just heard, and you receive a follow from us on Twitter. For $10, you have access to the Google Hangout. At $35, you get a coffee mug. And then the incentives go up from there, including mugs, T-shirts, and you could possibly co-host the show with me for 1 week, 2 weeks, or an entire month. You'll be behind the scenes with everything that we do to make the show, help come up with topics and conversation points, contribute to our news stories. It's all going to be a part of your Coffee with Kenobi Patreon experience. If you would like to hear more about this or want to see more information, please check out the link on our show notes or on our webpage. We are back, and we are here with our canonical Star Wars expert, Mr. Jason Brame. Welcome back to the show, Jason.
Thank you, expert. Such a height there. You should put me up there.
Well, that's all right. I have faith in my analysis of talent, and I really want to hear what you've kind of noticed or gleaned recently and what's going on in Star Wars canon.
Yeah, well, two things recently have come out. Of course, everyone is fully aware of Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad, which has definitely been on my shelf. I'm trying to get through it as fast and furious as possible, but I've been also catching up on some old stuff with an audiobook. So this one, I'm still almost done with it. But, if you really love some of those canon tie-ins, Inferno Squad is full of them. Even there's a nod to the Star Wars Annual in it as well, if you caught up on it.
Where is that? Because I've read it. It's porgorific, I'll say that. But where is that reference?
There's a reference. I don't know the pronunciation exactly, but there's a reference early in the book to them gathering up all the senators and throwing them into a jail, which is the same jail they referenced in that novel or in that annual.
Oh, there's in the annual for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. When you said annual, for some reason I was thinking about something in Insider for whatever reason.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know, but it was it's been a great book, especially for those who love both the Clone Wars era and the Rogue One tie-ins, and just anything I think that helps bridge Rogue One into A New Hope and make those feel more as a unified narrative. I think this book does a marvelous job with that, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing what kind of narrative comes out of Battlefront 2, the game for PlayStation, because that's I know this is ancillary to that in a way, and I'm kind of excited to see where that goes.
Well, it's definitely made me want to play the game because I enjoyed the characters in Inferno Squad, and I want to learn more about them. Maybe these characters just don't draw me in the way that Asajj Ventress did for Dark Disciple, which to me is the second best canonical novel that is out there. But it definitely is very engaging, and I bring up a lot of interesting points too, as far as what is evil from a certain point of view, and there's a lot we could do with that. But I think we'll probably dive into that as our CWK family gets closer and closer to finishing the novel.
Absolutely. But in addition to that, this month, kind of a little blip on the radar. I know last month everybody was kind of drooling over the Forces of Destiny YouTube shorts, which got us all really excited to wake up every day and see what the new thing that they were going to release. But the first of the month, they actually released a children's book, Forces of Destiny Volume 1. It features a story from Rey, Sabine, and Padme. And if you open it up and you crack the cover, you're thinking, well, these are just retellings of the YouTube shorts. But the Sabine story is actually new to us. So that is for those who haven't gotten there, it tells the story of it kind of tells the second story when Sabine and Ketsu Onyo got together, the bounty hunter friend that she used to have.
No kidding.
Yeah, so there's a nice little – because if you remember watching Rebels, there was the first episode where she showed up and they kind of partied. You're like, well, we'll maybe never see her again. And then she showed up in an episode and was like, hey, I guess we're friends now. So this kind of helps bridge that gap a little bit for us.
So basically, you just gave us all homework because I didn't know that there was a new story in there. So now I'm going to have to get it.
Yeah, and it's like last time I checked on Amazon, it was like $3. So it's totally worth, and paperback or Kindle edition, definitely worth a look. Now, my guess is that this is a YouTube short that may come out in October, but its first form for us is in print, which is kind of neat. It's the middle of the 3 stories in there.
Mark or Mike, had you heard anything about this story?
No, I have not heard about this one. No.
It is definitely
Go ahead.
It's definitely a 30-minute read. So I mean, it's you sit down and you're done with it because it is written for the 4 to 6 year olds. So, but it's good.
For me.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be a porg to appreciate that.
True.
No.
Mike, I thought you tried to hear a groan. I didn't hear a groan on that one.
I was shaking my head, to be honest, on that one.
Speaking of porgs, did you guys see the Chewie and the Porgs book that's coming out?
We did.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like Benny and the Jets, but Chewie and the Porgs. That actually looked really cute. That looks really.
Is that the one where he
adorable.
eats the porg? That's when he eats it, right? That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, why are people jumping on this eating porgs bandwagon? Is it because in that image from Entertainment Weekly, it supposedly looked like he had
There's a feather in his mouth.
Well, yeah, in the trailer there's a little bit of a feather, but
It might have been
he could have been flying around.
Cap, it could put a feather up there.
Yeah, it could have been.
Wow.
I've heard whispers of porg feasts and stuff. Do they boil them? Do they roast them? I've got to stop saying them. Do they roast the porgs? Do they boil the porgs?
That's right. We
Does Luke impale them with a lightsaber? That's
a good old fricassee. Yeah.
I blame Matt Moore for some of this because he put a pretty funny thing on Comics with Kenobi about how do you like your porg, and it was fricasseed or all these different kind of options, and it was pretty funny. Which reminds me, guys, Jason, I hope we're not getting too off the beaten path here for our conversation, but let's talk canon for a minute and let's go back to Return of the Jedi. It seems to be that people are fancy to say that Ewoks are cannibals. What do the three of you think about of that idea? Are Ewoks cannibals?
Yep.
Jason?
I think the evidence is highly suggesting that they would have eaten those rebels had they had C-3PO not intervened.
Okay, well, I think you just helped to prove a point I haven't made yet, and that is they're not cannibals. Cannibals eat their own. We have no evidence to show that Ewoks eat other Ewoks, so if they did, they would be cannibals. But eating a stormtrooper or attempting to eat Han Solo, that's not cannibalistic because they are a completely different species.
This is a good point, isn't it?
True.
This is a bit like that question, like what do you put in a toaster? And 9 out of 10 people go toast. You go no, bread.
That's right.
So it is one of those kind of. It's not a trick question. We should all be paying more attention. But yeah, definitely. I think. I mean, my question at the moment in terms of canon is Force of Destiny related. Is how are Ewoks such amazing suit makers and dressmakers? Because in that episode they present Leia with a fully wrapped dress. I don't remember them measuring her or fitting her out for that dress. They must have the most amazing eye. So the fact that they eat stormtroopers and were quite happy to prepare to eat, they've probably never eaten Corellian before. It's something new. So let's give Han Solo a try. So anything that they eat is impressive enough. We understand nuts and berries can only take you so far. But the fact that they can make a dress just by looking at someone, I think that's really impressive. This is the questions I need answering.
Those are good questions.
Thank you.
I want to add, did they happen to have just the exact right size? Maybe there is a Walmart on Endor that has different sizes?
It's quite possible.
It's quite possible. Should I edit that whole joke out? I can do better than that, I think.
Leave it in.
And then you're going to leave it in.
A porg joking.
Don't go there.
Wow.
Well, technically, in what is it, in the comic Shattered Empire, right? They technically were. It's hinted at that they were eating the stormtroopers. Whereas the guy was like eating something. He says, "Oh, this tastes good" or whatever, and we all it was kind of an inside joke that they're eating the stormtroopers. I could be wrong.
I don't remember that.
I tend to remember a line to that effect, I think.
Well, I'm interested in the fact that there is because you're right, Jason. When you're looking at some of the works that are published for a younger audience, typically it's a retelling of a story from Rebels or what have you. But knowing that they're sprinkling newer stories in there, it kind of goes along the line with the retellings of the original trilogy from the different characters' points of view that came out a few years ago. It kind of reminds me of that notion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, there's because I think of the publishing efforts, kind of the, the story group philosophy and getting a lot of different readers in here. I mean, you look at it's technically a children's book, or at least a young chapter book. The Adventures in Wild Space series is full of canon nuggets and references to things in the comics and Star Wars Rebels and such. And it's something that I think a lot of people overlook because of the reading level that it's geared towards.
Good point. Are you? How are you planning your reading schedule once Force Friday rolls around? Because we're going to be inundated with quite a few pieces of literature.
Yeah, so fortunately, I'm actually going to be I'm going to be in a gaming convention up in Arlington, and I have a 14-hour car ride back. So Phasma is going to come down as an audiobook.
Wow!
As long as there is, I'm assuming there's going to be an audiobook version. So I'm going to get that one and just listen to that all the way back. So I'll be on top of that game there. The Leia one, it looks like it's another Claudia Gray book, and those are amazing, but usually pretty easy to read. Significant usually, and also always awesome what she puts out. But I'm not concerned about getting through these. But yeah, it's going to be a pretty ramped up publishing effort with Journey to the Last Jedi, and my eye is set on the Legends of Luke Skywalker. I know that's the end of October, but that's going to be my highlights. But at least we have from a certain point of view between now and then. So,
well, I'm relieved that that's coming out at the end of October. I'd forgotten that. So at least it only gives you 2 books to digest. I mean, this is a wonderful thing, but you want to get to them so you can jump in on the conversation, but there's only so much time in a day.
Mm-hmm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank goodness for audiobooks. I'm not sure what I would do. I actually, because I didn't get into reading these stories till I jumped on the bandwagon when Marvel started in 2015, so I'm actually just finished up the audiobook for A New Dawn. So I've got a couple more to go, but I'm getting there.
Oh, yeah, that's my preferred method of digesting all this stuff. Well, I'm an audio guy anyway, as you know, Dan, because sure. Podcasting. It was just a natural fit to go with the audiobooks. But for me, at the time, a while back when the Faith of the Jedi series was out, which was an awful series, but I went through it anyway because I liked Ben and Luke and all that stuff. But so I would just listen as I was entering tickets for people. I would listen to that stuff. So that's how I got hooked. I don't know. The sound effects adds to it, and I just like it. It's so much easier. So when I'm, as you guys said, you get a lot of stuff to digest, and you want to be a part of the conversation. So the audiobooks are just quick, get it over with, a couple of days, and you're good to go. So that's how I prefer it. And the Luke one's the one I'm really looking forward to myself. Yeah,
I think that seems like it's going to be a home run. And Mark, what about you? Which ones are you most looking forward to?
Phasma, big time, and the Leia one. I think that's going to reveal a lot of stuff. Excuse me. I think the Luke one I'm looking forward to, but from what I understand, it's legends of, so it's stories about Luke told from different perspectives, which is going to be really cute and interesting because that kind of feeds into. Excuse me. That kind of feeds into the the whole myth making around Luke's character, especially in The Force Awakens. Really, everyone was like, Luke Skywalker, is he real? Isn't he dead? Or oh no, he's a myth. So that the logic of that feeds really well into Legends of Luke Skywalker projects, the book and that. So there's a few books that look very interesting, but they're the ones that stand out for me at the moment. And
we may not know which of these stories are actually canonical and which are just, like you said, legends or myths, and I really like that. That adds to the conversation, as do you, Jason, each and every time that you come on Coffee with Kenobi. So thank you so much for having another cup of coffee with us.
It's always my pleasure.
Very good. And where can people reach out to you and get a hold of your great work?
Yeah. So you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Star Wars TCE, or you can go to StarWarsTCE.com. That'll direct you to my YouTube channel where I put out a monthly timeline video of all the Star Wars media that has been released, including comics and whatnot.
And honestly, and I'm not just saying this because you're a member of the CWK family, but it's essential viewing because it really clarifies things. I don't know where you find the time to make these videos, but they're excellent.
All right, thank you. Well, they're less than 5 minutes a month, so if you got 5 minutes, you can check them out.
Well, there you go. After the break, Tom will be with us to have some news. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects, top-notch narrators, and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From Han Solo to C-3PO to Admiral Akbar, you'll recognize all of your favorite characters. Listen to movie tie-ins like Rogue One and The Force Awakens, to book titles such as Thrawn and Empire's End Aftermath, to classic audiobooks like William Shakespeare's Star Wars. With Star Wars audiobooks, you'll have plenty of Star Wars listening to keep you entertained. Visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com/Star Wars for sample clips and to start listening now. The Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app features incredible images from many aspects of the saga, including the original trilogy, the prequels, the Clone Wars, Rebels, The Force Awakens, and Rogue One. It's the quality you have come to expect from Topps. It's also easy to get into and really fun too. Your favorite Star Wars characters, scenes, and moments are in every pack. To get started, download the app for free from iTunes or Google Play, and then be sure to open the app each day for free credits to spend on card packs from the Cantina. Plus, if you can't get what you're looking for, there's a place to trade with your friends as you complete your Star Wars collection. And if you're an experienced collector, there are exclusive cards, special inserts, and autograph opportunities for you to enjoy. Don't worry about missing the cards and sets you want either, as you can sign up for notifications right on the app. The Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps can be downloaded for free from iTunes or Google Play. Be sure to download the app and start your collection today. The Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps is available now. And remember, these are the cards you're looking for.
We're back with Tom, and Tom is going to join us to give us a little bit of Star Wars news. Tom, what's going on out there?
Well, our long-anticipated wait for something about the heavily marketed Captain Phasma may be over. Penguin Random House Books released a pre-order synopsis of the upcoming Journey to the Last Jedi Star Wars Phasma book to be released on Force Friday, September 1st. Here's a quick summary. Cardinal, a crimson-armored stormtrooper and adversary of Phasma, interrogates a Resistance spy, not to learn more about the Resistance or its covert missions, but to learn the secrets of Captain Phasma's past. This spy apparently has the answers Cardinal wants, but is reluctant to give up the information, and she wages a war of wills with her captor. As the spy bargains for her life, the puzzle of Phasma's past comes together. This knowledge may prove dangerous to Cardinal as Phasma unleashes the full measure of her fury. This soon-to-be-released novel, titled Phasma, is written by Delilah Dawson.
I must admit I'm a bit conflicted on this one because the synopsis sounded a lot more exciting than I had expected. Phasma is a cool design, an interesting concept. I've never been a huge Captain Phasma fan per se, but I don't think that is anything to do with Gwendolyn Christie or the design. I think it's because there's just nothing about Phasma besides a few tiny scenes in The Force Awakens, and obviously they're remedying that with this novel and the upcoming comic book. But to me, as we mentioned in an earlier segment, while I'm looking forward to this, it's not with the usual anticipation I have for a new Star Wars novel.
Well, I got to be honest. I am a big Phasma fan myself because.
Oh, cool! Tell me why.
Well, I like. I don't know. Maybe it's that whole Boba Fett thing I had when I was 6 or 7 years old or whatever it was. A cool character, and we all thought going into the Force, oh, that's the new Boba Fett type a character, and I like Gwendolyn Christie, so naturally I just went and fell in love with Phasma in a way, and that's even my gamer tag on PlayStation is Phasma. And stuff like that. So I'm very intrigued, and I was a little disappointed she didn't get much screen time. And I'm curious. I'm very curious to see what happens in The Last Jedi and stuff. So this is a nice way to kind of filling in that backstory that we kind of wanted. The only other thing I will say is, though, I like a little mystery. I don't want to know everything under the sun. So I don't know. I'm a little, but the problem I have is the novels haven't really knocked me out over the head with anything major in about a year and a half. So, is it going to be another ho-hum novel? A few little tidbits here that tease us, and like they did in Aftermath, and then we get no payoff till, I don't know, 5 films from now? I don't know. But anyway, that's how I feel.
That's fair. I think that's fair. They definitely, they're still strong. They definitely haven't hit me in the same way. I don't think any Star Wars novel has really impacted me to a high level since Bloodline.
Well, yeah, Bloodline was if there was like earth shattering, I would say that one. Actually, A New Dawn is still my favorite one out of all the new stuff, to be honest. I don't know why. I like that. I guess because I like Kanan so much. I don't know.
Mark, what about you?
Yeah, I think with Phasma, I think when you look at the character, I think a lot of people will think like Mike, and that's how I thought initially. Is that she's kind of got that the Fett vibe, the quiet, tough sort of badass character. But when I've been writing about the film increasingly in different places, I tend to marry her up more in a weird way with Vader in A New Hope, because he was like the heavy. Before we knew too much about him and before we knew his lineage or any of that, he was just he was the bruiser. He was Tarkin's sort of muscle. And I think Phasma, to me, kind of has that vibe about her. She's obviously, she's a captain, so she's fairly high in rank and, got the unique armor. Also, we think, presumably we won't see other sort of chrome armored stormtroopers. I don't know. Maybe that's just a type of armor, like red armor with cardinals, just be mentioned, or the, Death Trooper armor or whatever, Scarif Trooper. Porg Trooper, they've all got their own armor. So is that like a rank of armor or something? But I always equate her more to Vader in sort of being the muscle. Then why not? And yeah, she did get short shrift in The Force Awakens. So hopefully now with The Last Jedi, we'll see more of her. And the Marvel series, I think the books sort of set further back and the comics a bit more sort of up to date chronologically. But
sure.
I'm all for seeing more, and also we're all film buffs and TV buffs, and we enjoy what we watch. And it's just kind of neat knowing that Brienne of Tarth is under that helmet. So
true.
Let's bring it on. Let's give her some action.
Oh, I like that, and also I think kind of the fun you both brought the Boba Fett comparison. I wanted to see more Phasma, and I wasn't one of the people that was necessarily disappointed or agitated that she wasn't more involved in The Force Awakens, because I think that's kind of what Star Wars is like. Think about the first 6 films. Not every character got the main spotlight, and sometimes we saw very little of them, and then later there was much more of a payoff. I think it's fair to say that Han Solo and Princess Leia took very much a backseat to Luke in Return of the Jedi, because that was more his story. The Force Awakens wasn't Phasma's story, and now we're getting that, although I must admit I'm a little curious if it was always the plan to spotlight Phasma right before The Last Jedi, or if that was more a response to the criticism that she wasn't more active.
It's a shame. It all comes down to the edit, I suppose, doesn't it? When JJ and the editors were sort of sitting down and working the film out and massaging it into a running time that Disney and Lucasfilm wanted, what do you cut? There must be scenes on the cutting room floor with more Phasma material, but presumably there's more material. There's Constable Zuvio footage knocking around somewhere. That poor guy thought he got his action figure, and and Sarko Plank. We're going to see more of these guys, and you actually get down to it, and they trim it because they want to hone the story in more on Rey and Finn and Poe and those guys. So it's tough. I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's any malice, because I know that a lot of theories flew around at the time. Okay. I don't think there was anything done knowingly, if that makes sense. I think it all came down to getting the film into the place they need. Get the film into the place they need it. And what tells you more about the story and the plot of the galaxy at that time? Is Finn telling you more? Is Kylo telling you more? Or is Phasma telling you more? At the moment, like you say, her part of the story, even then, even if you'd seen more of her, presumably was not as tied in as Snoke or as Leia or anybody else. So if you're going to trim a character, it's like, well, she's in the pocket now. We can bring her back. Okay, the joke was that they stuck her in the trash compactor, and I think they've actually worked in that they did stick her in the trash compactor, which I just thought was a flippant sort of little in joke to the fans of, referring back to Star Wars, but everything gets taken literally these days. I mean, I've talked about that so many times on 113, how characters are saying things that are just almost off the cuff and, nod and a wink, and then writers come in and take it as if they meant it very literally. But let's say she was in the trash compactor, well, she's still around. Obviously, she got out because it was on Starkiller base, so obviously she got out of the trash compactor. But unless that's a really well-made trash compactor.
I guess. It's like the fridge in Crystal Skull.
The classic fridge. Yes. Yeah. I have no issue with that fridge.
Me either.
What movie is this? I don't even know what movie you're talking about.
I love that's my second favorite Indiana Jones film. No joke.
I don't recall that being an Indiana Jones film at all.
I'll
that
come
didn't
over.
even happen.
I'll fly to Boston on the CWK jet and I'll show you.
I don't believe that happened at all.
I
don't recall that. Yeah. No. Whoa. Wait a minute.
You guys don't have a jet?
No, not yet. Jeez.
No.
Got to work a little harder, I guess.
It's actually a kite, so it probably won't get me very far.
Is it a porg kite?
It is a porg kite. A porg made out of porg materials.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all for that.
Porgs make the best.
Well, I enjoy all that. The comment I'll have about the Phasma book, just very quickly, is how in the synopsis it seems to me that the Resistance seems to have the puzzle to Phasma's past, and so without any speculation and just observation of the synopsis, that's what's going to draw me to that book. But moving on, if you haven't been watching the Lego company Twitter account for a while, they've been teasing for a few weeks about a new big product. It all started on August 1st when Lego announced on Twitter that something bigger than the Lego Creator London bus is coming. In fact, 4.86 times bigger, according to the post. The London bus, by the way, is a set that has 1,686 pieces, according to the Lego website. Now, hang on with me. There are a lot of numbers in this one.
Okay.
Then, on August 8th, Lego announced that something bigger, 2.56 times bigger than the instruction manual for the Lego Creator Carousel, which has an instruction manual for 194 pages, is coming. Whoa. Now, by my math, which I wouldn't always rely on, by the way, but that would make a manual of almost 500 pages. Then, just this week, Lego confirmed with a video and tweet that this set, its biggest set to date, according to the post, will indeed be a Star Wars themed set to be released on October 1st. Now, I know we don't do any speculating here on Coffee with Kenobi, so I'm not going to ask anyone what they think it is.
Well, no, we can do that. For merchandise, we waive our little rule.
Oh, well, I just wanted to know if you had the chance to build an 8,000-piece Star Wars Lego set with a 500-page instruction book, would you jump on that, and it doesn't matter what it is?
I would do it, but it does. I want the Superstar Destroyer still. I still haven't even gotten that yet.
See, I think it's going to be the Death Star.
Maybe Starkiller? I don't know.
No, I think it's going to be like a giant, huge Death Star.
6-foot Jar Jar Binks?
I'm all for that.
There you go. Mark, what do you think?
I think they should take back the Angry Birds IP and call it Angry Porgs and just make a great big like Landscape Acto, just like porgs everywhere.
Porg believable.
And not a drop to drink.
Well done. I'm glad you finally joined in.
Well, now I have my intro for the next show, so thank you for that.
I don't know. I think it's probably it's going to be probably another Falcon. I think we've had the Death Star recently, but a Starkiller base, that'd be cool. That'd be something special. So yeah.
Tom, what do you think it is?
The first thing that came to mind was the Superstar Destroyer. We don't have one, right?
No, there is one. There is a Superstar Destroyer.
Oh,
yeah,
we
there
do
is.
have a Super. Okay.
Yeah, I want it.
That was just looking at the video. Starkiller crossed my mind, but then I thought, what kind of detail would you have in that? Building a planet with Legos, although the potential is there, but Superstar Destroyer is kind of going with what I'm thinking, or a Force Awakens. I don't know what they called the one that Kylo Ren's on, but just a new Star Destroyer of some sort.
Mm.
Huh.
Yeah,
that could be, or it could be the T-Porg 1000 in the latest Terminator.
There you go. There you go. It had to be said.
Porginator.
The Porginator, exactly.
Well, now someone's going to do some photoshopping with a red eye and all that stuff. I can see it happening now.
It's got to happen. If I knew anything about Photoshop, I would do it.
That makes two of us, to be honest. Even though I don't like the porgs, but I would do that.
Oh man. Okay.
Well, maybe it's something to do with Snoke. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Soon.
I find that hard to believe because I'm sure they want to save him for The Last Jedi.
Maybe.
You know, I mean, when we find out he's actually a porg, which that would be a twist.
Oh.
What is in my coffee tonight? My goodness.
I don't know. I'm a little worried there, Dan.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up with one final story. Secret whispers never make for good friends, but whispers may be what make the details of The Last Jedi special. In an article posted by Entertainment Weekly, senior writer Anthony Bresnik writes about the influence of the master of Star Wars, George Lucas, and the influence he had on The Last Jedi. Now, Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm, has worked with Lucas since Raiders of the Lost Ark, and was asked at Star Wars Celebration last spring what kind of influence Lucas has in his retirement. Now, this seems a relevant question, as it is well known that Lucas has a particular interest in the Jedi, and with the newest film taking fans to the ancient first temple of the Jedi, Kennedy reported last spring that Lucas doesn't really have much input, and Gareth Edwards, director of Rogue One, mentioned that most of Lucas's suggestions were jokes and always encouragement to, quote, not screw up. Kennedy, however, said that Lucas may whisper in her ear every now and then something specific or important to him about Jedi training. So, what kind of influence does Lucas still have? Well, I suppose only those that are privy to the whispers will know.
Boy, would I like to be a fly on the wall for that, as would we all, I'm sure. This makes me really happy because I guess you could take it one way and say, well, gee, I hope George isn't worried that people aren't listening to his ideas, but I don't think that he's sad. I mean, he's a very rich man with he's left an immortal legacy on mythology for all time. But this is great because I mean he's the expert. He created all of this, and there's probably so much more about the Force, and he said quite a bit of it through the Clone Wars especially, and of course the films. So just knowing, even if it's just some sort of random thing, or even if it's just something that inspires a different idea, I think that is really wonderful.
Well, I personally miss George myself, but, I think he's finally coming to grips with it, and I think he's kind of okay with it now. But I think when it comes to, like, the Jedi or whatever, you kind of want his input, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And I think he's always been okay with it because, I mean, he's got, what do you get, 4.5 billion porgs for this? Or dollars, I mean?
Oh, you had to do it. Oh.
He's not a porg man anymore, is he? He's quite wealthy. I think it was Pablo Hidalgo. What was I trying to say?
Pablo Hidalgo?
Pablo Hidalgo?
Pablo Hidalgo. Pablo Agogo. Said recently that I think all the standalone films, except for Rogue One, which was John Knoll come up with the idea for that, didn't they? Were all influenced by George. And famously over the years, George had said, keep the Yoda origin off limits, keep the Han and Chewie meeting off limits. There was a few things that he sort of ring-fenced for the future. Don't kill Luke off in Vector Prime because I might need him at a future point, sort of thing. So I think his involvement is clearly a level of involvement, and he is he is our Yoda, and he is the maker. 3PO thanks him. So I think him having some involvement at some level makes sense. Maybe not a deep involvement, but and if ever they hit a roadblock, I can't imagine them hitting a roadblock in a story meeting and contacting George saying, "What do you think about this, George?" And him saying, "I'm too busy." He's always gonna. I would imagine. I don't know. It's just my feeling. But that if they came to him and says, "We've hit a bit of a brick wall here, we need some help," he's gonna probably already got the answer. It's not that he even have to think about it. He's probably thought about it for so long that it's all up there. So,
sure.
But like Mike says, it's George Lucas. It's like saying, and when you see people being kind of disrespectful online, it annoys me because if Ralph McQuarrie was still around, and somebody says, "Ralph, he's so forget what he did. You just wouldn't do that. And George came up with the whole thing in the first place. Ralph was riffing off George, so it just seems crazy not to utilize him if he's there and available.
Well, I mean, I think for many of us, he's as important to our lives and our history with popular culture as Walt Disney. I mean, he's the man. So, like you said, I'm pretty sure that he's obviously the original story group, all in and among himself. But I mean, clearly the story group has got this handled. But yeah, I like that too. If there's something where they're just not sure, well, they can check with him. I mean, I think that he joked at Celebration, or Dave Filoni joked at Celebration, that they will still text each other different things about the overall mythology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he probably said, "Why were you doing space whales? Why did you do that? What were you thinking?"
Well, because we couldn't use porgs yet, of course.
I've got to say, Dan, you used the phrase "fly on the wall." I think we should use porg on the rocks, because that's just completely no more fly on the wall. This
won't end. I'm going to be in the middle of sleeping tonight, but no porgs, no.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end our newscast than with that.
All porgs all the time.
Oh, there you go. This is the porgcast you're looking for?
Oh, there you go.
Got it.
The money shot right at the end. Well done.
Well, hey, thanks, Tom, as always.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you next week.
We will take a break, and when we come back, we'll look at what has happened to Rogue One in recent Star Wars conversation. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Coffee with Kenobi was sponsored by Penguin Random House Audio. Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From brand new audiobooks such as Thrawn and Empire's End Aftermath to our blockbuster movie tie-in editions, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com/Star Wars for sample clips and to start listening now. If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for. It's coffee chat time, and for this topic, I want to bring up something that Jim Capron, who's one of our CWK Patreon contributors, he posted this on the CWK Patreon message board, and here's what Jim had to say. Because I'd throw out a call and I said, hey, what topic would you like to hear us talk about on the coffee chat? And this is what Jim wrote, and I'm really curious to see what you two think about this. Jim says, I'm a huge Rogue One fan. It's number 2 behind Revenge of the Sith for me, but I feel like despite it being generally accepted as a great film, it's generally getting lost in the discussions through the Star Wars community with all the Last Jedi and Han Solo film news coming out constantly. We've only had Rogue One for 8 months, and I feel like there's so much more to be said about this great film. Just curious on your thoughts on this and if anyone else feels the same way. Mike, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's the danger with all these spin-offs. I feel like and especially I think they had a bit of a problem after The Force Awakens, because I know, as even Joe had said before, he said some people thought they went in the theater, they're like, well, where's Rey and stuff. So that's a bit of a tough one. I mean, I like Rogue One. I thought it was great. It was a fun film. It was great for a first try at the spin-off stuff, and thankfully it worked out well. A few plot points that I have an issue with, but you can overlook it because it was a good film and everything. But yeah, I'm with him on this, on it getting lost in the shuffle, so to speak, because Joe had even jokingly on the show said, I watched it, we watched it, and then we'll probably watch it one more time before The Last Jedi comes out, because we'll do our we did The Force Awakens a year later, we'll do the Rogue One a year later to see if anything's changed in our mind or anything like that. And I'm just worried, like, after we do that, when are we going to go back and talk about it? Even the Han Solo film, which I have issues with Han Solo anyway, doing that movie anyway, but I feel like it is going to be pushed on the back burner. And even like all this other stuff that's coming out, it's like there's so much coming out now. It's like, oh yeah, we had Rogue One. I forgot all about that. It did so well at the box office, and everyone's going to kind of forget about it. I don't know.
Yeah, it did astronomical business at the box office for sure. Mark, do you kind of feel the same way that Jim does?
Excuse me. Yeah, I do. It's a shame. It's a real shame because I think because now the films are coming so thick and fast, and we have TV and the book program, and Marvel are knocking comics out like crazy. So, back in the day when, between Empire and Jedi, for example, what did you have? There weren't really any novels, really. There was material out there. Obviously, Marvel had their one comic going then. But that was it, pretty much, apart from the read-along records, and it was pretty quiet. So we were used to having a long time to chew over our Star Wars, which I feel personally is one of the good things about the films being 3 years apart, is that you can really sort of get in and dissect and think about things, and the anticipation is so much more. But now, and that's not to knock what we've got these days, because I ain't getting any younger. I think if I was waiting 3 years for a Star Wars film, I wouldn't get to see that many. But now you got a film every sort of 12 to 18 months, or between Last Jedi and Han Solo, less than 6 months. Excuse me. There's a lot of content coming. So, in terms of Rogue One, which I love. I mean, I think I've actually seen Rogue One more than I've seen Force Awakens already. Wow. I just love the film.
I think I have at the end of the day when I think about it. And plus, it's got my favorite trooper, which is the Shore Trooper. So that gives me an incentive.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I have an incentive to watch it more than, I won't forget about it, but I can see others. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I totally agree about the Shore Trooper as well. There is a risk of, I mean, I suppose the advantage of Rogue One over, or maybe it's a negative, I don't know. It's such a self-contained story in the sense of the characters. Most of those characters don't get out. Spoiler alert. There's the ancillary characters do. Your Mothmas and your Akbars and people like that, and not Akbar. Sorry. Well, you don't know what happens to Raddus, do you? We're not entirely sure yet, are we? But there's other characters around Bail Organa. We kind of know where he's going to end up within the next couple of weeks. But there's there's these elements that kind of pocket it off. But then by the same token, it's basically the pre-show movie for A New Hope, isn't it? Because it's bumpers of bumpers. So there is a risk that it gets lost in the mix, which I think will be unfortunate. But I think that's where we are these days. We're already watching. I mean, today, Ron Howard releases a picture of look like an Imperial gunner's helmet or something sitting on a
See, I thought that was the helmet that Jen wore. Actually, which is the Imperial ground guy or whatever it is. That's what I thought it was. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I thought it was like a Death Star Commander helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that kind of look, isn't it? It's clearly something like that, or possibly something new. Excuse me. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that, and that kind. I mean, we talked about spoilers earlier on. That's kind of definitely telling us, well, the Empire's in the Han Solo film, so that seems to be the deep inference there. Rogue One could easily get lost in the mix, and I think Solo is different because that kind of feeds into the mythology, if you like, of Han Solo in a broader sense. And I think with all of them, all the standalone movies, I'm sure when they go in, Lucasfilm go in, they're thinking, well, if Rogue One's a big hit, then okay, maybe not Rogue 2, but they'll come up with some other sort of way of sort of playing off the back of that. And Han Solo, I would imagine they've probably pitch that as a trilogy because they want to lock these actors into the roles for a long time. If they can have Donald Glover and Alden Ehrenreich playing Han Solo and Lando for X amount of years, then they'd be crazy not to. So, it's a very good question. But it is unfortunate. I think that's going to be the case. Certain films will kind of get lost in the mix because they're just coming at us so fast.
Yeah, I think there's a number of factors with this thing, and you both hit on it really well. I think one of the biggest challenges with this, besides the world of marketing that we live in and how movies are disseminated and ingested by everyone, because we're a fast food society, right? We want things quick, we want them fast, we want answers, we want to be entertained. I mean, I think and boy, am I going to sound like I'm on a soapbox, but I feel like with cell phones and things like that, we're so used to having entertainment and stimulus all the time, that if there's any kind of a lull, then things just kind of fall out of popular culture in the spotlight. Now, with Star Wars, I think that would be much, much, much harder for that to happen. And clearly, Disney and Jedi News and the Cantina Cast and Coffee with Kenobi are going to make sure that doesn't happen. But I think that's a part of it. I think another major part of it is the fact that we know what happens to all the characters in Rogue One. We know their arcs. We don't necessarily know where all of them came from, although we have quite a bit with the journal. Why can't I think of the title of the journal? Is it Journal of the Wills? That's not the title. What is it? Is that it?
Oh, yes, with the one with Baze and Chirrut, and then and then Rebel Rising with Jin. I believe that was the other book.
Yeah. So those two, we've got information. We've got a lot of stuff in comics about it, and we know what happens at the end. There's no question about when is Jin going to show up again, or when is Cassian Andor going to show up again. Well, they're not, because they are one with the Force. So I think that's a big part of it, and I do agree. I wouldn't mind if they were every 3 years, like you were saying, Mark. There's something so wonderful about that I treasure from my childhood, but I think those days are long gone because we just live in a whole different world now where people want things more frequently. I mean, think about artists, musicians, for example. If they don't put out albums like at least once a year, then people are going to forget about it, and they run the risk of becoming a one-hit wonders. Now, Star Wars, again, is not a one-hit wonder, and that's not going to happen. But there's definitely precedence there.
Well, the only thing you got to worry about that is fatigue with Star Wars, and you kind of see that with Marvel, and we've always said that the oversaturation stuff. Yeah. I do think K2 and Cassian will show up in Rebels. Maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But the thing I'll say with Rogue One that could, keep it relevant, so to speak. I mean, it is relevant, but what might help is kind of like what I do on the weekends. Sometimes I'll put Revenge of the Sith in, then I'll do Rogue One, and then I'll do A New Hope, and then Empire because I have to do Empire. It's like my mini marathon type of thing. And you can't watch you could watch all 12, I guess. I mean, all 12, 12 hours, whatever it is now. It's 79 hours or whatever now. You can sit down and watch all 7 films, 8 films or whatever in a weekend. But if you want to do like a small marathon where you're like maybe editing a podcast and you want something in the background, that's kind of what I do. So that's how I look at, because I don't know about how the Han Solo one's going to really fit into that. Like Rogue One fits nicely into A New Hope and in between Revenge of the Sith and everything. So it has that shelf life, so to speak. With Han Solo, I don't know. I'm not sure how that'll work, but in any case.
Well, that has a whole different thing going for it, because Rogue One did have the promise of no characters that we are familiar with. Of course, we knew that Vader was going to be in it, but not immediately. And then it slowly leaked out that he was going to be there, but clearly he was not a main character, but he was used perfectly in Rogue One, I think. But with Han Solo, this is like, it's already a guaranteed hit because it's one of the most beloved characters in cinema.
Well, that's the danger, though. I mean, they got to get it right.
Right. Well, yeah. I feel like that's definitely going to happen just because they're just so... I mean, look what they did with firing the 2 previous directors. They definitely have a vision, and they are not going to let it be compromised.
Oh, I agree. Kathleen Kennedy did step in and do what she had to. She made the tough call, I think, and that's credit to her to even do that in the middle of the whole production. And I don't even know how they're going to get it out in May, but hey, I don't know exactly everything that goes on with film, but I'm still nervous with Han Solo because to me, it's like the big 3. You don't touch them. Luke, Leia, and Han. Everybody else, okay, I can live with that, but I don't know. And then, Mark, you said maybe a trilogy with these guys. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that with Han. I mean, they really have to do something really special, and I hope they do. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I don't mind being wrong if they do it right, so...
Yeah, I think with Solo, I mean, personally, the less they tie it in with everything else, the better for me. Because it very much like the original Brian Daley novels. When they said, "Well, go and write a novel. You can only use Han, Chewie, and the Falcon, and you can't use Vader and Luke and Leia and anything else." So he creates the corporate sector and, excuse me, and sends Han off on his adventures, and it was all about Han and Chewie. And his past and what got him to where he was when he first met him in the cantina. And I kind of hope the movie is like that. I'm sensing now we start to see Imperial stuff that maybe there's more of a tie-in to the, that part of the galaxy where the Empire have got control. Because obviously in the Solo novel, there was an agreement, and that's why the corporate sector was what it was and where it was. But it's a tricky one. They want to get Solo right if they've got it wrong, and clearly under Lord and Miller, they weren't happy. I mean, I think they were 18 weeks into a 22-week shoot or something and then pulled the plug. So you've got to ask, I mean, we talked about this on 1138, you've got to ask some questions about why they left it so long and who dropped the ball to notice that things weren't as they should be. But I do have a friend who works on set who's sort of there every day, and he says that the atmosphere is insanely good. Everybody's buzzing. They're absolutely chewing through pages and everything's going great. So he, not that it was bad under the other guys, but he said it's very different, and the atmosphere is popping, and everybody's enjoying themselves, and they've got no worries about getting it done in time. They seem very confident that they're going to get it there. And excuse me, sorry about this cough, by the way. It's stupid English weather. It's Ron Howard's the consummate professional or porg professional. And sorry, we haven't said porg for ages.
It's true.
And
porg unbelievable. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. I'm letting the side down. And and he's just working his way through the pages, and everything's good. So, but I think Mike's right. I think of all the projects that you're going to look and go, ooh, they could really easily get this wrong. It's the Solo one, and proof of the pudding of that quote is the fact that they did get it wrong. Clearly, they got over 3/4 of the way through the shoot and suddenly went, this ain't good enough, this isn't working, we need to rethink. And so it's a tough one.
I think it's Jim, I'm glad that you put this on the Patreon page. I think it's almost, if we want Rogue One to be still out there, I think we need to keep doing what Jim, what you were doing, and what so many people are doing, and that's still bringing up key things to dissect in Rogue One, because there's still a lot of beautiful things to look at in that picture, and a lot of it involves newer characters, but that doesn't make it any less interesting. In fact, I think it adds a nice new perspective, a nice new sheen to Star Wars, because while we are definitely close to getting more than we could possibly ingest, in one or two settings, I think there's enough there that can keep the conversation going for a long time. It's just a matter of making that happen. I mean, real quickly, before we wrap up this segment, is there anything about Rogue One you think that will be worth mentioning maybe in the near future?
Short Troopers? No,
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Well, the Journal of
Troopers, was that Porg Troopers?
Yes.
Oh no! Don't ruin my trooper now. Come on, jeez.
But can you imagine?
Yeah, now I'm going to.
Dare
a little
to
helmet
dream.
on a Porg now. Oh my god.
Maybe Stan Lee could come out of retirement and write a Porg story. That would be good.
Oh my god, no! Let's hope not. Well, the Journal of the Wills, we got that, so that's plays an important role in maybe the Last Jedi and everything to come. To be in the future there. So there is stuff that will connect to it, and I'm interested where they're going to go with all of that. And I'll say this, with Rogue One, I will say from the Cantina Cast standpoint, popularity-wise, we did from December to just the end of January with all the characters in Rogue One, and they were very popular episodes. So people love it. So I don't think it's going away, but I understand where the question is. It's like, it's going to get lost in the shuffle, sadly, I think. But anyway.
Right. And maybe another way to look at it is not so much it's going to get lost, even though that does make a lot of sense. Maybe another way to look at it is we're just so excited for the next chapter that we want to see what's going to happen next. We're very much excited about the next, but we're also, it's kind of a paradox because we also love the past, because we're still celebrating the first Star Wars film, and rightfully so.
True. Although I like Rogue One better than The Force Awakens, so it's got that going for it.
I love both of them, but I think I like The Force Awakens a little bit more.
Well, that end scene with Luke, though, that does tug on my heartstrings a little bit. But that we won't get into that because that's a whole other can of worms.
Indeed, so we won't go fishing for porgs on this one.
Oh my God!
So with that Porgalicious conversation, I think I already used that one, so I don't know if that one counts.
God. Oh,
Roku
God,
people, does that one count? I'll let you be the official judge of that. By the way, in between our different conversations, sort of during the breaks, we've had a lot of good porg references that we just neglected to put on the air. So maybe that would be good.
I'm thankful for that. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
So with that, we're going to take our last break and be right back to close out the show. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi.
I'd like to take a brief moment to thank our CWK sponsors, Penguin Random House Audio and the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. Please support them the way they support our podcast, and remember to listen to new and archive shows of Coffee with Kenobi wherever you listen to podcasts, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Player FM, our website, www.coffeewithkenobi.com, or wherever you enjoy listening to your favorite shows. And if you listen to the show through iTunes, please leave us a review. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and Tumblr, and we'd love for you to check us out there. Be sure to listen to our CWK family of shows too, including Legends Library, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia. A huge thank you to Mark Newbold and Mike Rondeau for having a cup of coffee with me. Where can listeners get in touch with you, Mark, if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
They can get in touch with me on Twitter. I've changed my Twitter handle. It used to be Jedi News 2010, but it is now Prefect Timing, because I'm a Hitchhikers fan, so it's a Ford Prefect reference. So Prefect Timing. And also, obviously, at Jedi News UK on Twitter. And we're also out there on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram's really rocking at the moment. So they're the places to find us. But obviously, the hub of all things Jedi News is the site itself, jedinews.co.uk. And if you guys have a chance, tune into some of our podcasts. We've got Radio 1138, Star Wars Collector's Cast, Take Cover, and Galactic Fashion. So, yeah, but I'm generally bobbling around on social media somewhere. So I'm not hard to find or throw things out.
And Mike, what about you?
Well, like Mark said, Instagram is really the place to be these days. So you can find us at the Cantina Cast on Instagram as well as Twitter. That's usually the two places we're doing stuff. And, wherever you can find a podcast, you can find us. Just look us up. We'll pop up somewhere. I think we're on just about every platform there is known to man with podcasting. I set it up that way. But other than that, you can also check us out at the MakingStarWars.net network there, the podcasting network.
That's right. So be sure, Coffee with Kenobi family members, to subscribe to all of these great shows. And I'm sure that you all already are already. But definitely worth hearing these guys have more Star Wars conversation. Thanks again for having a cup of coffee with me, gents.
Oh, it's been great. Thanks.
Pleasure.
And thank you to each and every one of you for listening to and supporting Coffee with Kenobi and for contributing to Star Wars conversation. We will be back next week with 2 new co-hosts and more Star Wars talk. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here.